Of course, we're positioned in different places in the country, different areas per se, if you want, and we have different reporters in all these areas to keep us updated with verified information and accurate information on what is happening as people await the final results that will be announced by the EC chairperson, Justice Simon Byabakama. Right about now, we'll talk to Eddie Olua from Northern Uganda, Lira City. A very good evening, Eddie Olua. Any updates on what's happening ahead of the announcement of the results that will be coming in a few minutes from now?
Good evening, Sharon, and all our viewers. We are coming to you live from Lira City. Right now, I am at the Lira City Council Hall, where tallying is taking place. As you very well for Lira City now, that is Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, the Health Minister. The contest has been one of those hottest ones in the region, in Lango sub-region here, and there were three candidates who were rivaling for the same position, but one pulled out, leaving the race only between the two. Right now, tallying is taking place here, and we shall be hoping to get the results in a few hours from now. But Sharon, if you may allow, during the day, a number of activities were taking place. Of course, voting started late, as it was in most parts of the country, and that was basically as a result of delays in delivering the voting materials, but also the verification machine also failed in most of the polling stations. But also in some polling stations where I visited, you find that some officers did not show up for work, so it took the electoral commission some time to find other officers to fill in.
Eddie, what do you mean some officers didn't turn up for work?
Yeah, for a case in point is Ireda Gully polling station at Ireda Primary School. The presiding officer did not show up for work. So voters were there waiting, the voting materials were delivered, but then the person who was supposed to receive them and then, preside over the election at that polling station wasn't there. So the returning officer and the team had to mobilize quickly and then found somebody whom they sent, and later on voting started.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Shortly after that, we saw the two prominent ministers voting in. Betty Amongi voting at Lango Cultural Center together with her husband, also the party president for UPC, that is Jim McKenna. And then Doctor also voted around midday at Ireda Primary School. But later on, immediately after the voting, some situation came up where we had some scuffle at Boro West, that is in Lira City East, where some vigilantes around the community group of border borders surrounded the car belonging to Honorable Betty Amongi, and their claim was she was moving around the polling station, and they were suspicious that her movement together with her husband was kind of like mobilizing people to vote for them, and they were not happy with that, so they surrounded the vehicle, not allowing them to move. So there was some bit of scuffle there that prompted the intervention of security. I saw there the 5th Division Commander, that is Faith Katunji, who rushed to the scene and then talked to the people there. Of course, the assistant RCCs were there, including the deputy RCC for Lira City East. And then later they escorted the minister together with her husband, that is Jim McKenna, back home, where they asked her not to leave home. But when we spoke to police to try to ask whether that was kind of like a house arrest, the police PRO for North Kyoga region, that is Jimmy Patrick Okema, was able to confirm to us that they really took her back home, but she's not under house arrest. But they just requested her not to move anywhere because when they move, they kind of cause tension among people. Okema also told us that the same meeting was also held with the Health Minister, Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng, whom they also asked her to remain at home. So they advised them that if there is any situation in the ground, they could use their agents whom they have deployed on the ground to manage or handle situations as and when they arise. But overall, the whole process was peaceful. There has been, we could observe security deployment almost in all corners of the city. Some of them, we could see them walking on foot. Some were using motorcycles, and then we also had some in pickup. And these have been a mix of both officers from Uganda Police Force and then the army, who have been moving and patrolling around and ensuring that people really vote freely, and then no situation actually happens and escalates. But also, moving around the town today, the streets were not as busy as it used to be, and I could see during the daytime that over 80% of businesses were actually closed. Very few businesses were open, and coming around evening hours, around 5, the majority of them were already closed, and the streets were not as busy as it used to be. So right now we are just stationed here waiting for results. Tallying is ongoing for presidential, tallying is ongoing for the woman member of parliament, tallying is ongoing for the 2 division members of parliament, that is City East and then City West Sharon.
A quick one, Eddie. Yes. I know we're waiting on EC for the results, for the final results, accurate and verified. But what do we have as provisional, if you may?
Thank you, Sharon. So what I can only tell you, of course, we cannot confirm as we wait for results, that what is happening right now is that we can hear and see a group of people, especially from the NRM camp, already celebrating, and they are kind of convinced that the woman member of parliament is going to their side, that is Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng. And from the preliminary results which are coming in here from most of the polling stations, we can say that Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng is still leading in most of the polling stations. But the gap is not yet very huge, but we can hear people celebrating and people are happy. We can also see agents belonging to Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng inside the hall here, and they are all celebrating, they are happy. You know, we can see them greeting each other. And then in the 2 divisions for the parliamentary candidates, in Lira City East and City West, we can see UPC candidates also in the room and their agents, and they seem a little bit hopeful that the day is going to them. Of course, most of these candidates, they also have their independent tally center. So before they walk in here, they have already tallied all their results and they come in here. But we cannot confirm that that may be the case, because we are here waiting on the EC to give the official results, and that is when we shall confidently communicate. But we are hearing also people celebrating outside there that the day is going to Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng.
And did you vote?
Yes, I did. I did vote after running around. So around 4, I had to rush after covering the other scuffle. I had to rush to my polling station. That is at St. Mary's, Angwet, where I did the voting, and then eventually also went to other polling stations to see how counting of votes at the polling stations were happening.
Thank you so much, Eddie, for the update, and thank you for going ahead to vote for the leaders that you want to see. Create change where you need it and maintain whatever you feel like has been worked on. Have a lovely night, and we will still wait for EC to announce. I know it's already past 10:30, which was the time allocated or allotted for the results coming in from EC, so many issues happen during the day, like the biometrics machines are failing, as well as, a few scuffles here and there from different polling stations, like in Nansana and the others that I mentioned earlier, and then so many others. But we'll still keep you updated as soon as we're ready to roll or to go to the EC Tally Center in Lubowa. Now in Bukono constituency, Namutumba district, where the race is between the incumbent Minister of Lands, Pacis Namuganza and Emmanuel Maganda Katoke, the National Resistance Movement flag bearer minus skirmishes were reported at Chibale polling station, and the situation was later brought under control and voting resumed normally.
You're welcome. Those who are just joining us, you're welcome to the National Tally Center for the presidential elections 2026. And the commission is just getting back in to take charge of this exercise. The chairperson of the commission, Justice Babakam Morgan Simon, the Deputy Chairperson Hajat Aisha Rubega, and the commissioners and the acting secretary. You're welcome, Lord Chairperson of the commission. You may take your seats. And straight away take us through what you have to communicate to the country. Over to you, Lord Chair. Thank you.
Distinguished guests and dear citizens who are watching us, wherever you are. These are the first preliminary results of the presidential elections that the Commission has received and ascertained so far. Total number of registered voters, 21,649,067 on the National Voters Register. The total number of polling stations, 50,739. Results, the total number of polling stations from which we have received results at this point in time, 133, representing 0.26% of total polling stations. These are so far the results per presidential candidate. Bulira Frank Kavinga, Party RPP, votes received so far 84, representing 0.36% of the valid votes cast for candidates so far. Kaswante Robert, Party NPP, total number of votes 66, representing 0.29% of the valid votes cast for candidates. Excuse me. Kyagulanyi Sentam Robert, Nope. 7,753 votes, representing 33.64% of the valid votes cast for the candidates. Mabirizi Joseph, CP, votes 45, representing 0.20% of the valid votes cast. Mugisha Gregory Muntu Oyera, ANT, 164 votes, representing 0.71% of valid votes cast for candidates. Munyagwa Mubarak Serunga, CMP, 145 votes, representing 0.63% of valid votes cast. Nandala Mafabi James Nathan, FDC, 560 votes, representing 2.43% of valid votes cast. Yoweri Tuhaburwa Kaguta Museveni, NRM, 14,232 votes, representing 61.7% of valid votes cast so far. Total number of valid votes for all the candidates so far is 23,049. Invalid votes so far, 796, representing 3.34% of the total votes cast. Total number of votes altogether, 23,845, representing 0.11% of the total number of registered voters. The spoiled votes are 37. That is the position as of now. Ladies and gentlemen, and all you who are watching us, as I said, that is the first preliminary results the Commission has received so far at this National Tally Center. It's now coming to 11 p.m. The next update will be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I wish all of you a blessed night. Thank you so much.
point. Now, we have received the first update of the votes of the tallies that have just been released by the Electoral Commission, official information by the Electoral Commission, and read by Justice Simon Byabakama, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, here just a few seconds or minutes ago. He has read to us 1,033 polling stations that have come in, with a total number of votes of 23,049. Of those, candidate Frank Bulira had 84 votes. Candidate Frank Kasimante has 66 votes. Candidate Chagulanyi Robert Sentamu of the NUP has 7,753 votes. Elton Joseph Mabirizi has 45 votes. General Gregory Mugisha Muntu has 164 votes. Candidate Munyagwa Mubarak has 145 votes. Nandala Mafabi of the FDC has 560 votes. And candidate Yoweri Museveni of the National Resistance Movement has 14,232 votes. The total vote is 23,049 votes. That is what they have released so far, and it was just at 11 sharp. According to the Chair Electoral Commission, we are going to have another update tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and the expectation is that by that time a number of other polling stations will have sent their results and how it has been. Now, I want to talk to someone as we close. Maybe he has been in the election observation for a very long time. His name is Mr. Crispy Kakeru. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to you. Just to be very accurate, I have observed 150 elections in over 50 countries globally.
Okay. I have wanted to ask this. What is that standard that is looked at and taken as the standard that qualifies an election to be free and fair? There may be a number, but what is that main one that an observer may share?
People should be able to participate freely, unimpeded in an electoral process. That's the only one. That's the gold standard. Yeah, I mean, anything besides that is really secondary. The primary standard is people, as long as you're a registered voter, you should be able to participate in the electoral process unimpeded.
You have observed elections in Africa.
Correct.
Out of 100, how do we score? On the African continent.
Well, I wouldn't want to give a score because different African countries have different contexts, and the contexts determine the type of elections we have. But I will tell you one thing, that in Uganda, we are talking about the need for electoral reforms, but our laws are one of the best in as far as electoral processes are concerned. Not just on the African continent, but in the world.
Why?
Because our laws provide for that unimpeded participation in the electoral process. You might have a question whether we translate what is in the books of law into implementation. That's a whole different question. But in as far as the legal framework for elections in Uganda is concerned, it's one of the best. And I will tell you why. Now, in many of the African countries, you cannot challenge results from an election. It's cast in stone. Once the electoral authorities announce the results, that's it. In Uganda, you can challenge an election result. In fact, I shouldn't even be going far. In the neighborhood, in Tanzania, once a candidate is announced winner for a presidential position, that seals it. No challenging it in court, no challenging it anywhere. That's the legal position. It's in the Constitution. But here, people can.
And we have seen it happen.
We've seen it happen.
But besides seeing it happen and the legal framework giving us that leverage, do we really practice what our law gives us as a country?
Yes, we do, with challenges. Implementation of the law has never been seamless anywhere in the world. Even in the best democracies that we love to cite, the UK, the US, you've seen how the US elections have been conducted. You've seen how UK elections are run. You've seen elections in the largest democracy in the world, India, how they're run. So, translating the law into actual practice has never been seamless. And I think we would be lying to ourselves if we wanted to say that there is a society that implements the law to the very point that that law has to be implemented. No. What we aim for, I think the law sets the standard, and we need to adhere to that standard as much as we can. Now, what we see in Uganda is an attempt. We try. Challenges exist, and that is why we're still talking about the need for improvements in the electoral laws. But beyond improvements in the electoral laws, we also need to talk about enforcement. Enforcement, which is what we're going back to, translating what is in the books of law into action.
Not only elections, why do we set standards that we fail to see to reality? How can we be the best people to write laws that we cannot achieve in reality to even 80%? How does that happen?
The law is a standard. You always aspire to. You always try to. If you hit the standard, perfect. But the law is supposed to, it's like in lanes are supposed to follow that. So that is what the intent of the law is. You follow the law. Why, you've asked, why do we have laws that we fail to score? I don't think it is the intention to fail to score to the best of the law. I think it is the realities of life that we have to constantly address. Now, we need to constantly address those challenges that impede us from meeting the standard of the law.